A whole different feel to what we're going to talk about now, because one of the people behind some of the West End's biggest known musicals, tracks from Lion King, Evita and Jesus Christ Superstar, is, of course, Sir Tim Rice. And he's doing something rather interesting. He's touring the UK with a special live event, My Life in Musicals. I know him so well. Let's take a look at his work and what perhaps might be in store.
Please welcome onto stage Sir Tim Rice.
Don't you dare close your eyes. Hold your breath, it gets better. I'm like a shooting star. I've come so far.
Can you feel the love tonight?
I closed my eyes, drew back the curtain to see for certain. Any dream will do.
Don't cry for me, Argentina. The truth is I never left you. All through my wild days, my mad existence, I kept my promise. Don't keep your distance.
But in the end, he needs a little bit more than me. More security. I know him so well.
Well, you will get to know him well, because he's going to be on stage. Good morning, Sir Tim Rice. Lovely to have you with us.
Thank you.
I was just asking you, are you on stage all the time, or do you kind of nip off to let the singers do their thing?
Well, I'm technically on stage all the time. I don't want to put people off coming to the show. But when I'm chatting about the songs, which I do between most of the songs, say how they were written, what went right, what went wrong, what was a hit, what was a flop. But when they sing brilliantly, I let them come forward, and then I withdraw into the shadows. But people who want to gawp at me could just about make me out. But I'm on stage all the time.
The singers who are singing your songs, it's funny, we had a filmmaker on earlier who's off to the Oscars and has met loads of her heroes. And they often say, don't meet your heroes, right? How do you go out of your way to make them feel a bit more comfortable? Because they're singing your songs. And, you know, there could be a thought, you say they wrote this.
No, they're very good. I think they go out of their way very kindly to make me feel more comfortable. And it's great because whoever we have singing the songs, and the casts do change a little bit, but they are always brilliant West End singers. I know who's going to be doing the show this time, but I can't reveal because one or two little snags to be ironed out. But on the last run, we had some superb singers, and it's very nice for me just to sit back and hear these people doing all the work, and all I have to do is to waffle, rather like I am now.
Tim, now, you mentioned the hits and the flops. Now, we all know the hits. Are there some lurkers that we don't know about that you were involved in that just never saw the light of day, that were...
Yes, lots.
Go on, is there something that stands out?
Well, the thing is, if you're doing a show, even if you're at all-time high, like Elton John or something, you really, if it's a live performance, you have to make your show primarily songs people know. Otherwise, they all go off to the bar. But I do put in one or two songs that they won't know.
Well, not because you didn't like them.
No, they just weren't hits, or they're in a show that hasn't come out yet. Or...
No, sorry, what I meant was, and it's maybe an unfair question, were you working, and when you're coming up with these amazing pieces of work, were there ideas that just were a bit rubbish, that you'd worked on that kind of never quite saw the light of day because you put your genius into it and it was like, what have we got here?
Well, the sort of songs I write tend to be in musicals. Very few out-of-context pop songs. I can't do those very well, although we do feature one pop hit that was not in any show. So really, a song that you might hear in this show would be something that comes out of a bigger context. Yeah. So if the show works, the songs will often work. But if you have a great song and it's in a rotten show, that song will never get heard. It might be possible to put it into another one. But that's with lyrics. I mean, it would be very hard if say, Evita had flopped. I couldn't have put the lyrics of Don't Cry For Me, Argentina into The Lion King. No. Without a very drastic change of storyline.
And can you cast your mind back right to the beginning of when you're starting to work on some of these big shows where I don't know, are people questioning whether they can work? You know, the very beginning of sort of Evita on stage, or when people are saying, oh, I don't know about this, you know?
Well, everybody questions, including the authors and the creators. We always question every show because you think, even if something like Evita, which had a lot of advance interest because of the record of Don't Cry For Me, Argentina, we were still very worried that it wouldn't work because so many things can go wrong. If you have a big theatrical production, there are literally 15 or 20 things that have to go right. Not just the work, not just the songs, you've got to get the lighting, the sets, the choreography, the direction, the publicity, all these things. And you've only got to get a major disaster in one area and the whole thing can come tumbling down.
So you've had a lot of things that have slotted into place through hard work, right?
Well, through luck as well.
OK, but you generate. Often good luck is generated through hard work.
Quite.
Why have you summed up your career when you were talking to one of our producers as an accident?
Did I say that?
Yes.
Maybe I misheard the question.
Or it's been quoted. Yeah, your career's been summed up as an accident.
Well, it's a fluke in a way, because if I hadn't met Andrew Lloyd Webber, my career would have been possibly something completely different, you know, I don't know, game reserve keeper or something. I was always interested in music, but I was never that concerned about musical theatre until I met Andrew and his great enthusiasm for musical theatre, about which I knew a bit. And, of course, some of the greatest songs ever written come out of great shows.
And there's the two of you together. Can you actually remember the very first meeting?
Yeah, absolutely.
What was the occasion?
It was the 21st of March, 1965. And I wrote him a letter. It's a long, gripping story, which I won't bore you with now, but you can be bored by it if you come to the show.
So you wrote him a letter, and then you managed to get together.
I'd heard that he was looking for someone to write with, and I'd written a few pop songs, one of which had been recorded, and it wasn't a hit, but I wrote the music as well. But I was better at the words. And Andrew was... I was told about Andrew by a book publisher, weirdly, and I went to meet him. No communication with mobile phones in those days. I had to write him a letter, ring him up and all that. And he was 17 and I was 2 years older. He was clearly very good. And he was writing all these wonderful melodies, which were very much influenced in the right way by Lionel Bart, who we both think is one of the greatest British composers of all time. There should be a Bart Theatre in London somewhere. And Rodgers and Hammerstein. And I was influenced more by Elvis and Chuck Berry and the Everly Brothers. So it was quite a good combination, really.
But it worked, didn't it?
It worked, it did, yeah. But that was an accident, Mega. I mean, meeting him was an accident.
OK. If you were to be invited, say, for example, most people know what Desert Island's Discs is, right?
Yep.
And where you get to choose 7. I'm giving you one.
One of
your songs, the one song, not to play over and over again, but the one that is the closest to your heart, and the reason why?
Well, you often have to write songs in a show where there's a storyline expressing a view you don't believe in, because the character you're writing for is perhaps a bad guy or somebody who has strange views or whatever, or you present both sides of the argument. But occasionally I get the chance to write a song which happens to coincide with what I believe. I wouldn't say every line, but there's a song in Evita called High Flying Adored, which is about success and coping with it and wondering if it's actually worthwhile. So that's sort of, but there are plenty of others.
Well, everyone's going to go and look that up now.
Yeah, I don't think it's in the show, actually, so I've probably been plugging...
OK, we'll find
I'll put it in now.
Can I ask you one other thing? I mean, some of the biggest names in music have sung your songs on stage or done versions of it. Is there someone out there, from the past or now, that you've always thought, I'd love them to sing this and it just hasn't happened yet?
Well, the greatest honour I think Andrew and I felt we had was when Elvis Presley covered one of our songs. It was just an album track, but that was.
Which song was that?
Well, you wouldn't know it. It's called "It's Easy for You," which I think we're going to feature in the show. We did it last time, and people don't really know it, but it's a fun Elvis-type ballad.
Elvis Presley sang one of your songs?
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Bing Crosby did as well, actually.
Here we go. That is a list.
It sounds like all these old codgers, but...
No, it certainly doesn't.
There are one or two slightly more modern people. I mean, if Dua Lipa's watching, she's welcome to cover one of my songs.
There you go. An invitation to Tim Rice. Thank you so much for joining us on this sofa.
Thank you for having me. It's very kind of you.
My Life in Musicals, I know him so well. It begins in Leicester on the 18th of April.
You're going to hear some great stories, I think, if you go along.